Okay, it's a little bit different tonight. We have some people on Zoom, and we've got some here. I'm gonna remind those council people that are here to turn your mics on and make sure that your microphone's up close. To speak a little slower or louder, just so that we can make sure that we've got everybody heard from. Roll call. Travis, do you want to do the roll call? You want me to do the roll call?
Mayor, if you can do the roll call, it might make it a little easier to keep my end muted.
Okay.
Easier for them to hear.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds good. I'm just going to go down the line. Randy?
Here.
Emily?
Here.
Andy?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Kirk?
Here.
Steve Luce?
Here.
And Russ Hadley.
Here.
Okay, is there anybody who wishes to speak to the council about anything that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go through the consent agenda. Minutes of October 25th, 2021 work session and November 1st, 2021 regular meeting claims. Renewal of Class C beer permit for Oneota Community Co-op, amendment ownership updates. Consider approval and certification of residential abatement from Russell Stoweller, 106 Sunset Drive, a remodel. Consider PPE number 6 for Decorah 2021 East Main Street improvement. Consider PPE number 1, that's partial payment estimate. Number 1 for 2021 street improvement asphalts resurfacing project. Consider change order number 2 for East Main Street. Consider PPE number 4 Pole Line Road Bridge project. Resolution 3228 obligating funds from Urban Tax Renewal Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriations tax increment finance obligations. Resolution 3229 obligating funds from Urban Tax Renewal Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payments of annual appropriations tax increment finance obligation. Resolution 3230 obligating funds from Urban Tax Renewal Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriations tax incremental finance obligations. I know some of there is wordage in the background. Travis, do you have any other things you want to state on the claims?
No, if council has
consent agenda, I mean.
Yeah, if council has no questions, the 3 resolutions on the consent agenda are there because they are obligations of the city for developers with previous development agreements.
I'd move for the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Ooh, candy.
Okay, the consent agenda has been moved by Chisel, seconded by Carlson. Any questions?
No.
Roll call?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chisel,
Aye.
I'm sorry. I'll do
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Hey, that helps if you do that, Travis. It may help for Carrie, too, who's taking notes as well.
Yep.
Consider approval of a site plan for Scooters Coffee at 900 Short Street. Also, there was background information on that. And Jeremy, do you have some information on that? Anything?
Go ahead, Jeremy, if you're there.
Yeah, I can go first. So, the letter, our review letter was in the Dropbox. I was just gonna go over real quickly a couple things that
Keep the microphone up,
that I
please.
had noted. At the time of the review, Beacon had indicated that the property was still owned by the previous property owner. It is my understanding, and I think Greg can confirm that they have since closed on the property. So item number 1 in the letter, probably not an issue. The sign, that's been discussed a little bit already. They are proposing to install the monument sign within city-owned right-of-way. And I believe, again, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but that the first meeting in December is the public hearing for that Boulevard lease agreement.
Correct.
And then stormwater management, the parcel is smaller, so it falls underneath requirements, or it does not, no stormwater management requirements are needed due to the size of the parcel. And then the other thing that was noted was the access drive off of Short Street. There's currently an unpaved portion that goes through a city parcel, and the developer is requesting the city pave that. And a couple of different things with that. I think that request, I suggested go to the street committee. Perhaps council wants to discuss. I'm working with John a little bit to determine that parcel, if it was dedicated as right-of-way or not. And we are still working on that. I think the reason that's important is because if it is right-of-way, we would say that probably no easements through the city-owned right-of-way are required. If it's a city parcel, then we would recommend that there be driveway easements for what will end up being 3 businesses that would utilize this or have their driveways through the parcel. So again, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, that's correct. And I believe that parcel, it's kind of an odd-shaped parcel sticking out from Short Street, but it looks like that's part of a box culvert project, and that's probably why the city wanted to own it back in 2012 whenever it received it.
Yeah, the history there is the city did acquire that parcel as part of the Short Street improvements to get access to the box culvert that runs underneath Short Street. So that's why that parcel is owned by the city.
Jeremy, do you have any rough estimate as what that would cost to pave?
Concrete, it's probably in the $15,000 range.
Okay.
It's not a small section, but it's not a city street. It's kind of a little bit of a gray area. That's why I was recommending that.
Okay.
Some council level decision, I guess, rather than our office. So, and the last thing noted was just the presence of bicycle parking per our code. 1 bicycle stall is required based on the number of parking stalls. So, P&Z did approve contingent upon items noted in the letter at the meeting last week, and so I don't know if Greg or Travis or John have anything to add, but that's kind of the summary on the project.
Just maybe add for emphasis that if a motion were to be put forward to approve the site plan, contingent on not just the things Jeremy listed, but which also does include the sign in the easement. So again, that contingency can be put in place, and we'll have that discussion at the first meeting in December.
So if there are this many contingencies, why aren't we just waiting till the first weekend or till the December meeting?
That's at your discretion, I suppose. I think if I was answering on behalf of the developer, they probably want to get started sooner rather than later. And I didn't feel that, well, a couple of these things are important. I mean, if the sign, for example, if that's not granted by council, they'll put the sign on their property. So a couple of these things, like the bike parking, pretty minor. The access drive, again, that's really off the site. So approval would allow them to get started on the basic site work sooner rather than later.
So if there wasn't approval on the sign, it wouldn't hold them up?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay.
We've communicated that to them, that the answer has not been given on that yet.
Okay.
Lewis would move approval of the site plan for scooters.
With the contingencies, Steve?
That's correct.
I would second that.
Motion made by Luce, including contingencies, seconded by Chisel. Any other questions? Roll call.
Neal,
Don't
Carlson,
Did you
This
vote?
could,
Yeah, I did, but doesn't he usually go to Randy?
well,
Yes,
it's going
aye.
to vary because he's not here.
Aye.
yeah, sorry.
Remind me of the contingencies again.
Sign.
Sign, driveway,
Driveway,
what else? Is there
easement.
more?
The bike parking.
Bike.
The two big ones are the drive, what we want to do there, and then the sign.
Easement and sign.
Aye.
Okay, you've had Neil, you've had Carlson,
Thank you. Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
okay, motion carried. Consider approval for Perry Novak Electric to install streetlights on East Main Street. There was some background on that as well, but I'm going to have Jeremy speak to this item as well.
Yeah, so this is a continuation of a discussion that was had at, I believe, the utility committee meeting a month or so ago about the 3 streetlights on East Main. And so we did reach out to a contractor to complete this work. If you recall, it was the work necessary to reinstall 3 streetlights, poles, lights, and underground wire to each of the 3 poles. And so currently, again, not to get into the weeds on it, but the city owns one of the poles and all 3 lights, and the wire to all 3 poles or all 3 lights. But then Alliant owned 2 of the poles. So we have 2 options in front of you. One is to have Alliant do the work and take over ownership of everything. That is the just over $3,000 quote. And then if we want to maintain ownership, that would be the quote from Perry Novak Electric that you have in front of you as well. It's just over $11,000. So I just wanted some direction. The project is, the street's open. It's dark. I'd like to get the lights installed here yet this season. So just wanted to have that discussion and some direction from council before we proceed.
So if Alliant does it, it's 3,000, and then is there a monthly charge?
There would
Yes.
be for the like we have for other pole. They would maintain the lights and everything, but we'd have the monthly charge for just having their lights. There's no meter. There would be no meter
Right,
here.
so
but
what's the monthly charge?
that I don't know
Okay.
off the top of my head.
And otherwise, if we own them, then we have to put a meter on them?
Correct, and that's part of the reason for the difference in price is that Alliant requires a meter for all city-owned infrastructure, which is something as we replace, we'll have to do. So that was one of the substantial differences here in the 2, is that we have to install a meter.
So we pay electricity no matter what.
Correct.
And if a light goes out and Alliant owns them, they pay for the replacement. If we own it, we pay for the replacement.
Correct.
So we got an $8,000 difference,
Yes.
which I would say go with Alliant would be my preference and save the money and the headaches down the line for replacing.
We're looking for consideration from council for approval.
Ross, do you recall does anybody recall what the monthly fee is on a light without a meter?
Nope.
It's hard to, right, if the monthly charge without a meter is exceedingly more than with a meter, then in the long run, it pays to own. It also pays to own if we could put solar on them, but maybe that's ridiculous. I don't know.
It may be something to consider as you're going forward at looking at polls 2 versus this one being a completion of a project.
I know, I think that's what's hard, which is what we've talked about, is that we own some poles, and not all of them, but do we want to start giving away infrastructure or actually holding on to infrastructure. And I think that's what the holdup is.
X amount of electricity coming in, and the only excess electricity would be what's going into there because everything else is metered coming into the city. So they have a pretty good idea of how much electricity we're using on our lights and
Right, which is why, but we're still not paying a monthly service charge on every light. I mean, that's what's hard, right? Every light that they own, that's not metered,
We're
we
just-
pay a service charge.
we're
That
just
can be
paying
anything.
we're just paying the electric rates.
No, they charge us a monthly rate because they're not just charging us for electricity. It's a flat rate. They pay it, we have to pay on every pole that we don't own, right?
On the lights.
Yeah.
Not the poles. The poles,
Right,
this
sorry.
price includes purchasing the poles up front, right?
Yeah.
You can choose to do a monthly cost on the poles, so.
Yeah, no, every light that we don't own, we just pay a service charge on. So if those lights ever became solar, we might still pay that service charge even though we're not actually buying electricity. And that's where it becomes difficult because you're trying to guess whether, and they can change that monthly service charge to anything they want. We don't have control of that. So if they have a new rate case and decide to increase their monthly charge, we could actually be paying more per month than we are for the actual electricity we're using.
What's the council?
Travis, did we ever get any response from Alliant in terms of our request for some pretty, we asked some pretty clear questions. Did we get answers?
So I did send a follow-up email out to the council as well with those questions that we had and asked for others from the council. I didn't get any additional. We are trying to set up a time to have Alliant come and actually address the council at, was it last month's meeting's request?
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't have clear answers from them because the plan was they were going to present them at council.
Did you get any response from them, Travis?
Just that we had already indicated to field staff that council wanted them to come and attend. We had some questions already at hand. Reached back out to council on that day, asked for more questions. No, I did not get answers at that time.
And I feel like this is just one more of their time. I mean, they know it's getting dark. They know we're feeling the pressure, and they're not responding to us.
Yeah, I share some of those frustrations. However, on this particular issue, I think that there's a clear desire for the resolution of this from our staff and the lights along Main Street. Even if we decided to invest in owning these pieces of infrastructure, we wouldn't own all the lights on Main Street. It'd be about half, and Alliant would own half. And I feel like the places where our city could hypothetically recoup the most return from taking some of our lighting off grid by using solar would be places where we owned more contiguous long stretches of the street lights. And so I personally would rather wait for this debate or conversation when when we can leverage a bigger set of streetlight infrastructure all at once and not just grab 3 poles on a street that probably won't ever work very well with solar. I guess my inclination is to follow what I think is the staff's recommendation and go forward with turning these over to Alliant.
Are you making that in a form of?
No,
a
I'm just
motion?
letting people know where I'm at.
Okay, that sounds okay. I'm just
All right,
double
I would
checking.
move to accept the bid from Alliant Energy for these 3.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Carlson,
No.
Luce,
No.
Zittergruen,
Yes.
Hadley,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Chisel,
Yes.
Neal.
No.
I believe that motion failed. Is that correct? Okay.
I guess I'd prefer to wait to meet with Alliant and get some more answers and maybe have some sort of comprehensive plan instead of continually doing these, one project at a time. Maybe form some sort of consensus as to what we're going to do moving forward. Idea.
History-wise, I think they ran the clock out on us on Locust Road too. So, just in terms of where I'm at, I feel like they run the clock out on us, and then we were like, ugh, we want to meet everyone's needs. Let's do it. And I guess I'm tired of letting them run the clock out on us.
Then in that case, then Travis, let's try and get something set up so that we can get some answers from them, since there should be lighting on those streets in a timely manner.
I'd
Yeah.
make a motion. I'd make a motion to accept the Novak bid.
Luce would second it.
Okay, we've had a motion from Hadley and seconded by Luce to accept the Novak bid. Discussion. I want to be clear that you understand the ramifications of that as well. If you don't have a clear understanding for Alliant either.
We don't know the ramifications, and that's what's impossible. We don't know what the monthly service charge is on our poles. And Alliant can't come and tell us what our monthly service charge is. I mean,
Well, Mike is here. Mike Wagner is on the call.
Oh,
I don't know if he wants to speak to it or not, but I mean, he's been at the last two meetings that we've had questions and nobody's spoken up. So Mike, this is your chance.
Unfortunately, Ross, this is something that I don't have information on because I don't work at that level in operations. But I can definitely put a note forward to operations to see if we can make sure we have that information. I thought that information had already been provided. So, yeah, I can start emailing
Well, I mean,
people.
it was the same questions we asked at the last meeting. So, I know you're a communications guy.
Yeah, and Ross, I thought there were conversations that had been had with the city manager and city staff. So, like I said, I don't work directly with those operations folks, but I can start that conversation to find out what's going on.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay, we
But
have a
I'm not
motion.
changing my vote.
We have a motion and second, but I'd like to hear what the comparison price-wise is from Novak versus Alliant. Can you tell me what that is?
Alliance approximately 3,300, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
3,300, and then Novak is 11,100.
but we don't know the monthly service fee on the pole.
Right.
It's like buying a car instead of leasing. I mean, it's like leasing a car. I mean, you can pay less to lease a car, but then you pay monthly payments.
I think
And then you never own it.
I think the thing I want to make sure is that if you approve this, the amount of pricing that you're going to be paying. No, I know that, but we've got a motion and a second on the floor for it. As far as I can understand, we have a motion and a second to accept the Novak bid.
Good.
So,
As far as discussion, Luce would suggest that we do pass this and spend a little more right now and go ahead and get the East Main Street.
What's
any further
do
discussion?
you have grave safety concerns, Brent or Jeremy, in the next 2 weeks if we don't do anything till December 1st? Is there?
Well, I don't live on East Main. I would think if you'd ask them, probably yes. My concern would be if this extends farther than that, we won't be able to get them installed if the ground freezes.
I am so frustrated to be in this position again. I just feel like Alliant continually runs the clock out on us until we're left with an impossible decision. And that is so unfair.
I understand.
I'm just saying it, hoping that
I
it gets repeated
understand.
over and over again, because this isn't about us being obstinate against Alliant. It's about Alliant not responding to us in a timely manner and answering the questions that we have.
I understand, Emily, and we've heard that. I just need to make sure everybody is aware of approval of this motion and second, and the potential price.
I mean, I think something to take into account, Ross, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, since you made this motion, that there is a liability to owning infrastructure. It's not just an asset, right? That if we decide that we want to be in possession of these lights, it's also a commitment to every 20 or 30 years or whatever the light life cycle is, replacing them. It's committing us to an ongoing expense. And
Sure.
I think we need to factor that in while we're trying to factor in everything else.
Well, Steve, I've attempted to do that in my spreadsheet that I had sent to Travis and to Alliant asking questions. To the best of my ability, I've not been able to do that, but I do know what ownership is versus what a lease is, or a quasi lease with without metering. So I'm going with the quantity that I can understand, even though it's a little more money. It is an asset. It's providing a service, and I think that I think it's important to be able to act on the data that you have.
Travis, any comment?
I think the one comment to maybe compound a little bit on Steve's there, that with this infrastructure, if we do own it, we are going to be contracting out still the maintenance and any additional costs on, or not additional, excuse me, any ongoing maintenance or any issues with it, we don't have the ability to maintain in-house, so we do continually contract with Novak Electric. So just want to reiterate that as well.
And how much do our current light poles cost us that we?
I do not know that number.
Okay, just a
You
minute.
buy them and it depreciate.
Just a minute. We've got about 3 different people. Let's go with. Could you
Sorry, what was your
something from the
Could you
department
repeat
head
your
table?
question?
Yeah, I mean, we're buying new light bulbs, new lights, and putting a meter on them, right? So as we think about maintenance, I'm assuming that poles don't need maintenance every year, that there is a sort of, they're brand new, they should last a good 20 years.
And just to repeat it in the microphone, Chopper pointed out that there is also the service of having to go out and do locates, which I recall from the first time this came up, worked out. They're not cheap, but they're not super common either once the infrastructure's buried. Is that accurate?
We know where it is. We're putting it in the ground. We should have it.
Right, it's still, state law requires it to be located, and we are working on being able to locate it ourselves, but we do not have that capability currently. So anytime a locate request comes in for our streetlights, we make a call to the contractor and pay anywhere from $100 to $300 per time to have it located, and that just depends on where contractors are doing work. That's hard to predict.
Jeremy,
And it is probably important to point out, it's not just contractor work too. If I dig and plant a tree in my front yard, that is a one call as well for locates. So it's not just when we work on the street or infrastructure. It is anytime somebody's digging in their yard, they're supposed to make that call as well.
Aren't the lights and the wiring to the lights in the right of way? I mean, isn't that why would any homeowner be digging for these particular lights when they're street lights? They're not coming into their yard, right? It would be in our right away.
It all depends on what they call in for a locate. If you are planting a tree in the boulevard, for example, these would need to be located. Of course, if someone's doing a project in their yard and they just call in a locate for the entire parcel, we again are required by state law to go locate the entire parcel. So it really depends on what the excavator, homeowner, contractor, whoever fills out in the one call.
Well, I'll just kind of tip my hand again. I plan on voting against this motion because I don't think 2 weeks plus or minus is going to make a huge difference. That people do have lights in their cars, and hopefully, everyone drives safely and slowly in Decorah. So I think 2 weeks is 2 weeks is worth waiting for, and I think hopefully we get some answers to our pretty clear questions by then. Otherwise, I'd be inclined to just I guess join this frustrated movement.
Ross, what were you gonna say?
Okay. Any other further comments on this motion?
Ross had his hand up. I'm curious what he had to say.
Oh, I just saw Jacob Seaman join the call. Jacob does work in operations, and he's our Northeast Iowa customer service representative for Alliant. Maybe he can answer the questions in real time. Do you have those handy, Travis?
Yep, I'll resend.
Hey,
Okay. If not, we can go ahead and vote. I don't know
If
whether
Jacob-
Jacob wants to participate or not.
I'd love to hear from Jacob if he's willing to give it to us, because it My vote hangs on that information.
Jacob, do you have a comment? You're muted. Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. Roll call.
Zittergruen,
No.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Chisel,
No.
Neal, I'm sorry, I didn't hear a vote.
Because Emily's
She hasn't stated
Okay.
a vote yet.
Can he chat? Can
Okay,
he chat it?
but
I mean,
okay, just a
I
minute.
don't
Just
want to make a vote without information.
Emily, just a minute, please. If we are in the middle of taking a roll call, John, we need to go through the roll call since the discussion was closed,
If you've started the roll call, yes. You called
Okay.
the motion.
because I called for the motion. Where Emily is the one.
No, no. It's not worth screwing screwing ourselves to screw Alliant, but I'm tired of them. Tired of this.
So we have, who do we have left? Andy.
Carlson,
No.
Okay.
Luce,
Aye.
So I believe there were 2 yeses and 5 noes. Is that correct? I just want to make it sure that it's clear for Carrie.
And since Alliant's on the phone, I want to be really clear and hope my colleagues will join
Okay.
me. If we don't hear from you from December, you're tying our
Just-
hands. This is ridiculous. It's a simple question.
Okay. Travis
yes.
and Carrie, are you clear of who voted yes and who voted no?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And then also Travis, we work at getting that set up, get that meeting set up so we can find out some more answers to the questions that they put forth and we haven't gotten answers from.
There are comments from Jacob on the chat.
I think what I'd like to do is hear a reply back from Jacob that goes along with when we start having a conversation when Travis gets it set up. Because we already voted on the motion.
He just says, send me your questions.
For the third time.
Okay,
I'm grabbing those now.
all right. Travis, I'm going to let you work with that from your end since I cannot see the chat.
We don't have to do this now because we voted
Okay.
both options down, right? So
Okay. At any rate, we need to get the answers both actually from Alliant. So we will look forward to getting those shortly. Okay. Moving on to number 7, consider request from the MEU Task Force to send customer and stakeholder transparency requests to Alliant Energy. Let's see, Travis, do you want to give any background? I know Carly is here and Annie Johnson is here.
The extent of the background would be the council did vote to require Wanda to send off a letter to Alliant with a second request of information. And the city did receive back a denial letter, for lack of a better term, stating that they could not provide the information as requested. And so the task force did convene earlier this month to discuss on November 5th, they discussed sending this letter to the Iowa Utilities Board to seek their assistance in getting this rate information from Alliant. And I believe Carly or others in attendance would be best situated to handle any questions directly of them.
Okay, Carly, I'll ask you to come up. I believe there were two documents that were in the Dropbox. One, it's a supplement to the customer and stakeholder transparency request, which was kind of informational. And then the other was the actual request. I'm gonna let you speak on that, please.
Great, thanks. I'm Carly Hayden Foster. I'm the chair of Decorah's Municipal Electric Utility Task Force. Nice to see you all again. I was here 2 weeks ago. I gave you an update on our task force. And as I mentioned at that point in time, we were working on a draft of a letter to the Iowa Utilities Board. Our task force did approve that letter, and so that letter was shared with you last week. That letter is available publicly on the Dropbox. And in addition to the letter itself, there's also that short supplement. And so thank you, Travis, for introducing it and giving some background. I'll just say that any potential feasibility study should include a reasonably accurate estimate of the capital expenses necessary for municipalization. We requested these data from Alliant, but they declined to provide it. And so this letter we drafted with the intention of getting the specific information that we need from Alliant, and we hope that the council will be willing to forward this request to the Iowa Utilities Board. Andy Johnson is here. He was on the feasibility committee that helped draft this letter, and so he or I will be happy to answer any questions that you might ask.
Could you just explain or clarify, because I think you did it, we talked about the two dockets that are open, and this is actually separate from the two dockets, that this would be an additional, what they call criticism, that would be going to the IUB. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. Andy, did you want to jump in and add to that?
The main docket that's open that has been covered in this, in terms of an order history around stakeholder transparency for Alliant, is the docket that is the 2019 rate case that the city was a part of as part of the Decorah area group. And so that docket has remained open, and the board has continued to work with Alliant on stakeholder and customer transparency, not just related to Decorah, but related to everybody. In that docket, though, in their principal order, when they expressed frustration, the board did, around the Decorah case, they said in the future any community that would like to communicate with us further around municipalization specifically should submit a complaint. That's why the plan here is to submit it as under the board's normal complaint procedures.
Okay.
And then potentially cross-reference back to that document.
Okay, that's clear to me. Would you also, maybe Carly, I know, just reiterate as far as in the budget piece, as to the document and how it was prepared, and as far as that there was no asking of funds from the city to be able to submit this?
Yeah, indeed, at this point, this is a docket that was drafted by members of the task force, so we've incurred no legal expense to this point, and I don't believe there's a fee to just submit a complaint to the Iowa Utilities Board, so at this point there is no immediate expense associated with this. We're just filling the Iowa Utilities Board in on our attempts at getting information from Alliant and their denial of the information request that we've already sent twice.
I make a motion that we, can I make a motion? No? I make a motion that we submit the customer and stakeholder transparency request to the MEU on behalf of the city of Decorah.
Luce would second.
Is this proprietary
Just a minute.
information that we're requesting?
Just a minute, please. Okay, we have a motion, and we have a second by Luce, and now discussion. Randy?
Well, is this proprietary information that we're asking of them, or is this something that can be found on their websites for anybody to go look up?
No, this is not. So I know that there was some, someone made that claim in local media, but no, we're looking for specific detailed information that is not publicly available on their website that we have specifically asked for them, and they have declined to share with us. And so yes, this is proprietary information. We have offered in communications with them for members of the task force to sign non-disclosure agreements. If that were to be something that was relevant, we recognize that this might not be information that they want to make widely available, but it does seem to be that this is information that our task force and certainly the city council would need to make an informed decision.
Well, and to that point, if I can, what's the depreciation schedule of a power pole? Like something that simple. That was a question I asked that we've not been able to get an answer to. Whether we want to take charge of something or whether we don't, it's not even an MEU grand scale thing. It's strictly, I was strictly asking a question, what's the depreciation schedule of a light pole? And we can't seem to get clear answers on that. And so that it frustrates me, which is why I would be supporting the letter, just because it seems to be difficult to get answers to the most basic of questions.
And it does seem that this information gets supplied or doesn't, right? When they did their study with Concentric Energy, maybe they didn't give them their information, which is why there was the disclaimer that they didn't actually use Alliant data. But somehow they have the key to being able to provide the firm that they are issuing a feasibility study from information. They should be able to, with non-disclosure agreements, to do something similar for us.
Yeah, and as explained in the supplement, like that's the point of this document, is that we're trying to get solid, specific, concrete information that would form the basis of a feasibility study. If we were to go that route, that would form the basis of providing information to Alliant if this were to be something that would, or that providing information to the Iowa Utilities Board if we were to move forward with that. And so we just want a solid set of information so that we don't end up in the situation that we were last time, where there are two different feasibility studies based on two different sets of data. We would like one accurate feasibility study. We hope that that would help make this a less controversial issue. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Travis, do you have questions? Since the city would be sending the letter, what type of questions might you have? Are you clear?
Sorry. I don't have any questions. The way this would boil down to is if the council takes action, I sign my name to it and send it off. If council does not, it does not go anywhere. So I really don't have any questions.
So I would just like to take time to remind everyone that we did have a municipal referendum 3 years ago asking the citizens of this community whether or not we should proceed with investigating an MEU. And the answer to that vote was no.
I'd be happy to remind people that during that same referendum, a lion lied through their mouth, open and quite blatantly.
I think we don't need to litigate that. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about why I plan on supporting this. You know, as a liaison to this working task force, I have seen them very diligently attempt to fulfill the charter that they were handed by us as a council last fall. One of the pieces of which was to pursue a feasibility study based on correct and accurate information. They have done that diligently. They've requested it twice. They've done all the research they can. This is a piece that's missing. Now, there is a question. Is it Alliance data that's proprietary and there's no legal obligation, even though they're a rate-regulated monopoly, to share it with us? Or is it stuff that we're entitled to so that our voters can make the best possible decision the next go-around, given that our voters didn't have good information the last go-around? That's honestly not a question for us to decide. It's not up to us to decide whether this is Alliance proprietary data or something that voters are entitled to know. The people who get to make that choice are the people at the Iowa Utilities Board, and this is the process. Sorry, Steve. I'm just going to say I'm almost done. Which Steve are you just a minute?
Steve Luce, just
Okay.
a minute, please.
All right. I think this is just a choice, or a pretty low stakes way of asking the IUB to tell us if this is information we're entitled to or not. And if they say, you know what, actually that's not information you're entitled to, that's fine. Then we have information. And if they say you're entitled to information, well, that's the law, and we get it. And I frankly don't think there's much downside to this, unless people use this to further divide the community. but I just can't imagine people would be that mean-spirited.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Andy, did you want you?
Yes.
Luce?
Oh, thank you. I think this is a necessary step to continue our input to the IUB about how our incumbent provider is dealing with us or not. And I think the or not is the important part here. And we need to make another statement to them by sending this letter that we're dissatisfied with our incumbent provider's relationship with us. Part of the complaint they issued after the last hearing was Decorah wasn't treated well. And they've paying attention to that now. So we need to continue to say they're still not paying attention to the IUB. And that's why I would encourage a yes vote to send the letter.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
I'm curious, Andy seems to have some.
I was just going to respond, if there's a minute, to the issue of confidentiality, just from experience working with the city and the city's attorneys and all our other partners in the rate docket. I believe pretty strongly most of the information we're requesting is not confidential. The board doesn't term it proprietary. They use confidential or not confidential. Most of this information in aggregate is part of every rate case submitted through the board. There are pieces now and then that the utility requests confidentiality for, and then all parties just sign an NDA. And that's what we've offered here. But still, the majority of this is already part of public rate dockets. It's just that what we need is Decorah specific. We're just asking them to break down public information submitted in rate dockets for this community to do a study on this community. That's the main thing. I don't believe most of it actually is confidential.
Okay, thanks for the clarity. Roll call?
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Chisel,
No.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider Resolution 3226 allowing Alliant Energy to install streetlights on Mossman Drive. Jeremy?
Okay, so the situation here, perhaps a little bit different, is that as part of the Mossman addition off of Highland Drive, they have to install streetlights in order for the street to be accepted by the city and start plowing and etc. I was not here when the site plan was approved, but I think the issue here is there was no clear direction, or there is no clear direction for a developer. All it says is they need to install streetlights. Doesn't say who ultimately should own them, whether it be the city or Alliant. I can tell you in this area, historically, they all are owned by Alliant. In 2019, a similar situation arose when Venaheim did their addition, the Nabo Tunay properties, and the same thing happened where they had to install a streetlight, and that was done through the same process where Alliant was paid to install and take ownership. So how we want to move forward from here, I think needs to be discussed, but I guess I'm a little bit unsure how we tell a developer at this stage of the game who they need to hire to put in the streetlights. And so that's why this is in front of you.
I'd
One
make
other-
Go ahead,
Just
Travis.
a minute, please. Travis?
Just one item I was also going to add is that this is an area that is primarily Alliant-owned infrastructure. So this would be right in line with the rest of the existing infrastructure around the area.
Okay.
Hadley would make a motion to table this installation specifically, and also review the subdivision code regarding streetlights as to why something that's a developer responsibility is getting brought back to us as far as ownership. I think it's just probably poorly written subdivision code, and I think we could clean that up. I mean, we're not responsible for building the streets to our street code. We're not responsible for bringing cable to their buildings. I think I think power potentially could be there, or it could be our decision, but we don't have enough data to act on it, so I'm going to ask that we table it.
That's a motion to table.
Until when's the motion say? Just the next meeting, or?
Well, until we get a response from Alliant on streetlights to be able to make an educated decision. There are subdivisions that don't have streetlights, so it's. I don't think we have to hurry. Jeremy, are they going to get the street done?
No,
to
so
be able to
that's
be,
the issue, Ross, is that we can't accept the street and therefore cannot plow until the street
well,
lights are.
no, I'm asking you if the street is physically built to the spec that we could accept.
Correct. This is the last piece for the city to accept. The street is paved per city spec. The only thing left is installation of the street lights.
Sidewalk in?
As they put in houses, yes, it's going in.
Okay, so we have a motion. We do not have a second.
I would move to approve resolution 32.
Oh, just a minute.
Hold on, I'll second that, Ross.
Okay, so the motion was made and seconded by Carlson.
I have just a question. Hearing Ross sort of put it that way, Jeremy, could you speak to that? Why are we treating lights differently than we treat all the other aspects of the built environment, which are provided by the developer and then given over to possession of the city? Just could you explain why it's different?
I think Ross probably hit it. It hasn't been an issue before, and so the subdivision code, all it says, I mean, it's one line. It says developer shall provide street lights, and I think just hasn't been an issue for. I can't speak historically on other subdivisions, but my understanding is that the past couple have been installed by Alliant and they've taken it over. So I think that.
But that would be a developer decision, right, Jeremy? Why is this in front of us if it's a requirement for the site plan? That's my question.
That I can't answer because I wasn't here when the site plan was approved. I think that needs to be a conversation when the site plan is approved, not at the end of the
Exactly.
project.
Exactly.
But we're not being asked to pay for anything in this case.
We are not. No.
Yes,
So why are we holding up the development? That's what I want to know. Why?
we are or we are not. I thought we were.
Yeah, we're holding it up.
Yeah,
No.
we're holding it up.
No, I thought we were being asked to pay for these lights.
No.
No.
Just approve the resolution to allow Alliant to install them.
Because
On
this
their
plays
dime.
back to,
On their dime.
yeah, if I
In an
may,
area where they own all the infrastructure already.
Yes.
the main reason that this item, I believe, is being considered at this point is Alliant will own the infrastructure. The other option is if we want to require the developer to hire Novak, again,
No,
their
no.
dime, higher cost.
Okay, I was wrong. If this is not on our dime and it's not a financial decision, I withdraw my motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is that
I'd withdraw mine as
acceptable?
We no longer have a motion.
Yeah, I'd withdraw mine as well.
I
You
just
can do it that way.
I'm just going to be real clear here. These would become the property of Alliant. Is that correct, Jeremy? Okay, thanks.
Okay, so our motion is, just a minute. Can you just wait a minute till I make sure it's clear? I know.
Everything's withdrawn, so
No.
I'm making it. So we
Okay,
can
is that correct?
keep moving.
Yes, the member
I'll-
making the motion can withdraw it.
Okay, that sounds fine.
And I will second Randy's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chisel and seconded by Johnson to accept Resolution 3226. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider Resolution 3227, setting a date for a public hearing, rezoning of 2324 Sweet Parkway Road from commercial to multifamily residential. I'd like to hear from both Greg from P&Z and Travis, please.
I'll start if Greg doesn't mind. What I do want to emphasize with council is that this is not the action to actually approve any kind of rezoning. This is simply to set a public hearing so that council may consider the rezoning request that P&Z did make a recommendation to pass. So ultimately, the council really does need to approve this resolution, regardless of whatever the outcome may or conversation may be, because the council needs to take an action, whether in the affirmative or negative, but that cannot happen without a public hearing first.
Luce would move to set the public hearing by passing resolution 3227.
I have questions. Do we ask that after this?
I'll second it, and then we can have discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we had a motion made by Luce, I believe, seconded
Correct.
by Johnson. Question is, what's the date for setting the public hearing?
It would be the second meeting in December.
The 20th.
That would be December 20th.
So I have some
Correct.
concerns that it seems that whether it's been told or not, the council hasn't made a decision, but there seems to be movement up there as if it has been done. And that makes me feel like there's been some irrelevantness. I think P&Z felt that too in conversations I had with P&Z members, that, well, they've already bought the property, they're already moving in, which to me is very backwards in this process. So I'm hoping that since the reading isn't till, and the hearing isn't until the end of December, I hope that gets communicated with the party at hand. The rezoning hasn't happened, and so there I don't think there should be an assumption that the rezoning will happen.
I've got a question about setting a public hearing. Is it possible for us to set it for the first meeting in January, or are we obligated to set it on this date? And my reason for asking this is I feel like December 20th is a the point of a public hearing is for the public to have input, and right in the middle of the holiday season, I wonder if too many people are gonna not be paying attention, and take their chance to have input. I'm also frankly like I don't want to be the guy who says no to a church like that close to Christmas Eve. So, that's.
Can
we move those meetings or not?
Just admit you don't want me to vote, Steve.
Oh no, this isn't about you at all.
Okay.
Well, that's
just a
problematic
minute.
right there. I mean,
Could
So-
you answer his question, please?
You want to speak, Randy?
Just a minute. We'll be right with you. Could you
So
answer the question as far as setting the date for the public hearing?
So we have generally set it for 1 month out. We used to set it for the next council meeting, but because of changing in the publication availability, that's why we pushed it 30 days out. I'd have to double check. The council has to act within a reasonable time of the rezoning request, and maybe you give me a minute, I can get that exact timeline for you. The other thing I know, I think it was communicated from the applicant that they were trying to make, trying to get this done before the holidays. So
Okay, I can respect that. I just don't know if the timing is great
I can-
for calm deliberations or whatever.
Okay, could you step up and state your name and the address and
Randy Emo, 1684 Sawgrass Road, representing Prairie Lakes Community Church. Just asking that, we're trying to get this pushed through and get it opened up. I know, there was questions about tax base and other things. The county had looked at buying it, and also that if the county bought it, there would be no tax base. We're doing basically the same development as a apartment beside it is what we're rezoning to. So the quicker, the smoother transaction we can make, the better.
I can understand that. I think there are questions and I actually posed that to P&Z at the time, that the business park had originally been set up for businesses, and I understand that there are apartment buildings that are being set up, which actually does bring quite a considerable amount of revenue into the city by people who are living there. And so I wanted to make sure, and I think the other thing is that, let's say that you're not in there for a very long period of time. If you leave, That leaves that, if it's set as a residential, then that leaves that for potential for another apartment. I think my one question for Travis was that if there could be another, whether it would be a conditional use permit versus changing, and how that would affect as well.
So the way current code is spelled out, we do not have a conditional use, special use permitting type that I would have professionally rather gone that route or advised the church to go that route. The rezoning here is sorry, can't get rid of this cough, but the rezoning to the residential, P&Z's recommendation was that it is conditional on the use of a church within 18 months. The caveat is that once they do utilize it as a church, it is now zoned R3, the entire parcel. It's R3, multifamily residential. Again, I'm not saying that this is just a hypothetical, but if the church were to turn around, fold, that building could then be chopped up into apartment complexes and retrofitted to apartment complexes. Or in theory, single family homes would still be eligible to be built on multifamily lots.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go back to, did you find information as far as setting a public hearing?
Yeah, it actually does say within a reasonable amount of time. So there's no further clarification in our code about that.
If the people asking for the rezoning really want it to happen on the 20th, I've gotten more pushback on this than I have on a lot of other rezoning questions, and so I think that we owe the people a good substantive conversation, and I just didn't know if the timing was great on the 20th of December.
Well, there's still if they have a public hearing on the 20th, then the potential would be you still would have to have three.
Correct.
Even if you voted it through, you still have to have 3 votes unless it's waived and passed.
That's correct. So you could have the hearing on the 20th, and then it's up to the council
Whether they
if they pass the first reading, whether they want to waive the second and third readings.
So it does seem that, I don't know who would, maybe it's just that we need to notify the church that this is not a done deal. I've gotten a lot of pushback on it too. I think it's really difficult when you consider the premise behind the commercial park, that this isn't actually in line with what was sold when we decided to build it. So I think that's what's challenging.
So did we have a motion in a second as far as?
Yes.
Yeah, we got to set the hearing. I mean, that's
Okay, because you have to set a public hearing for it. And Luce made the motion, and was it Kurt? Did you second it?
I guess I'd like to hear some feedback too from Decorah Jobs or Winnebago County Development and what their thoughts are on this entire rezoning, since I don't believe that this is what they intended when they built the business park.
I did reach out to Stephanie, and she does plan on having something for us at the public hearing, that she didn't think that there was any need to
We're
do
getting
it
into the
prematurely.
public hearing stuff.
Okay. Just a minute, Steve. Luce. Okay. Okay.
What was that, Steve?
I said we're starting to do public hearing discussions as opposed to voting on setting a public hearing.
If you
Thank
say
you.
so, Steve.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we have a motion and second for setting the public hearing for rezoning on December 20th. Roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Consider ordinance 1282 approving the 2020 redistricting map. It's the third and final reading.
Is the State House all set?
Say that again?
State is set.
Iowa Department of Statehood. The Capitol building, they've done all their work, so we can go ahead and finalize ours.
Yes.
I heard steakhouse, and I'm much
That's what
less
I heard.
confused now.
Okay. It is not steak house, it's state house.
Well, there's
I move ordinance 1282.
Motion
Third
made
reading.
by Decorah,
I'll second it.
seconded by Johnson. Discussion?
I would like to see that after this rezoning, even though we're not coming up for another 10 years, that we have a more specific, I don't know if it's an ordinance or whatever we have on the books that describes the process for how we do this next time. I agree with my colleague Shizzle that this was, I don't think, a very transparent process. I voted because it seems as though we are knee-deep in it, but I'm very disappointed in how this was handled.
I appreciate the comment of taking notes. I only look back on what was in place, which was nothing at the time, in an environment that was hard also, but I have been taking notes. Also, I appreciated that eventually the Secretary of State did get the information out, and so we'd be looking forward to the next time that it's done more on a timely basis, and that we actually have guidelines from Secretary of State as well. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Chisel,
No.
Neal,
Yep, yeah.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider ordinance 1284, amending chapter 12.44.
You skipped one there.
Oh, no.
It's all right.
You made it to 11.
Yeah.
Oh, I did, okay. I just wanted to get to the snow one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
You guys are so good. I'm so glad I have all
Poor
of you.
Jeremy.
Consider ordinance, I know, one time I could just go backwards and then it would work too. All right, consider ordinance 1283, approving Three Chicks Rental LLC, second reading. Jeremy, or Travis, do you have, oh, it's not Jeremy, okay. Travis, do you have comment on this, please?
No further comment other than second reading. This, as it's annexed into the city limits, it's A1 agricultural. This is to rezone to commercial zoning to let the developer fulfill their terms of the sale.
I would move for approval of ordinance 1283.
I will second it.
Moved by Chisel, seconded by Johnson. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Have we had any comments at City Hall, Travis or Carrie, on this? I would
Not
move-
that I've received.
No, not that I've heard.
Okay,
I would move to waive the third reading and adopt ordinance 1283.
Zittergruen second.
motion made to waive and adopt. Any discussion?
Is there something they're trying to get going here as far as the development's concerned or anything, Randy, that you know of?
Not that I know of, but, if they do have something, that's,
But no one's expressed anything to you as far as,
I haven't talked to Kelly, but.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Carlson,
no?
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
And I believe that has to be unanimous.
6-1.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
6-1's
thank you.
fine.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries to adopt, waive the third reading and adopt. Consider ordinance 1284, amending chapter 1244, snow, ice, and accumulation removal, first reading. Jeremy.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 1284, amending chapter 1244, snow ice accumulation removal.
Sittergrun second.
So we have a motion by Neil, seconded by Zittergruen. Jeremy, would you like to say anything? Okay. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
I don't normally like to waive the second and third, but I would be willing to do it on this one, being that we have talked about this ad nauseum. I think snow is going to be here, and
Yeah, the public's had all sorts of time to weigh in on this ordinance
doesn't-
when it was part of a bigger ordinance. I
Yeah.
think that'd be fine with me.
This wasn't really discussed that much though.
No one-
publicly, so I would be more comfortable if we wait until the first meeting in December.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so we will have a second reading in December. Appreciate the effort, though. All right, city manager.
Didn't you have a motion in a second, though? Didn't Zittergren second?
Yeah, having heard from two of my colleagues, I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
does this,
Thanks for keeping us
Okay.
in order, though, Ross.
Thank you, Ross.
so in the meantime, people, don't put your snow on the street.
So, I mean, okay, as long as he withdrew, we're good.
Okay. All right. Hey, Carrie, are you clear on this?
Yes, I am. We're good.
All right. City manager.
Okay, so right now we're working within staff. We've got some internal policies that we need to get in place now that COVID's rearing its head in Winnebago County again. Hence a lot of individuals participating virtually tonight. So want to point out, probably see some other policies come up. Also, on the more positive side, however, we've made some progress on fiber to the premises discussions. We've got further legal questions that we're going to have a conversation with later this week to see that potential partnership happen. And then have reached out. So actually this auditor of state, Rob Sand, did send out another email last week to to give further guidance. John Anderson and I are working on 2080 agreements with some of our community partners for the city to continue to provide financial support. And so you'll be seeing some 2080 agreements coming up with some, especially during budget discussions.
Okay. Carrie, what have you got?
I will send out an official email, but just to put it on your calendar, I'm looking at a council budget work session January 18th, which is a Tuesday. I believe the 17th is a holiday.
Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is Monday, so that week we would be having the city council on Tuesday.
And that'll also be a budget work session?
That's correct.
And is there going to be a schedule before that? Is that our big budget meeting? Are we going to have a schedule to meet prior to that? Or we gonna-
That's probably something we can discuss at the goal setting meeting on the 29th.
We want to get a date out there well in advance so that everyone can try and keep at least one date solidly open.
And so you are setting that goal session for Monday, January 29th?
I believe so.
I mean,
November the 29th, correct. That was the largest vote getter on Zoom. I know
Okay.
one council member, it's going to be tight for that individual to participate, but I believe
I'll
that
drive
was
real
the
fast.
highest vote getter.
Okay, and that'll be from 6 to 8, seeing that Upper Explorer Line's going to be assisting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything from departments? Don't all speak at once.
Last Friday, the Chad Curley from the DNR was here. We did our 3-year inspection. Most of the preliminary stuff was done by email and correspondence that way. When he was here on Friday, we did a physical inspection of all of our utilities and reservoirs and everything else. And as expected, everything went fine. They'll be sending a report here in a couple, 2-3 weeks, maybe up to a month, for any recommendations or anything else. And when I get that, I'll share it with the council.
Okay. Hearing nothing else. Kurt. Steve Zittergruen.
I'm working with Travis to get a betterment committee meeting on the schedule. It's a work in progress. I've been working with Jeremy Brill on some items related to bike parking and the parklets that we experimented with this year. I want to do an end of year evaluation and how can we do things differently and better next year. So that's just something to be looking forward to.
Thank you. Steve Luce.
No, thank you.
Andy Carlson.
Travis, if you could continue, and I'm pretty sure Jacob got the memo here during this meeting that if we could get Alliant to sit down with us for a utility meeting, that'd be great. I also want to thank everyone who threw their name in the hat there for the last election. To everybody, it's a good thing when people participate in democracy. And congratulations to Kirsten Olson for taking my spot, and I'll try to pass on some of my institutional knowledge to him in the next month or so.
Also, all your additional notebooks. And
well, that's really what I'm looking to do is pawn off all of the stuff I've accumulated over the last 6 years. We have had a conversation about that actually. So yeah, just thanks to everybody who put their name in there and put themselves out there.
Okay. Emily.
Well, and I see Zach on there too, so congratulations, Zach, for the park board. A couple things. There is a sustainability meeting on Wednesday. On the agenda, if you haven't seen it, will be discussion about PV solar projects. Ross, I know you're keenly interested in that. We're also going to be talking about downtown recycling, so my guess is the council will see some requests from sustainability coming for that in the next month. And then also we're going to ignite the conversation about communications and a communication plan. I think some specific ideas in terms of website and this idea of a city-based app. Travis is going to ask, just thinking about planning and zoning and some historic and maybe some upcoming, not conflict, but ideas of what's happening at P&Z, and then it comes to council and maybe there hasn't been a lot of communication, or to me that has to do with the strategic planning and ideas of where we should be looking at how we grow as a city. So I am wondering if they've been invited to at least, I don't know if participate is what you want to do in strategic planning, but thinking about how do we connect back to planning and zoning, and that comprehensive plan would be helpful for strategic planning on some fronts related to that. And then just a reminder, there's a rural fire meeting after this, so anybody willing to stay, that'd be great. And if you're in public safety, please stay. And then also, Travis mentioned that COVID is rearing its ugly head here in Winneshiek County and starting all over again. And so I encourage everyone who can to get vaccinated, and third shots are pretty much available as well. So there's a lot to fight off this winter, and don't let COVID be one of them.
Thanks. Randy.
I just want to remind everybody that Holiday Lights kicks off a week from Wednesday with the walkthrough at the campground, and then Friday night or Thursday night after Thanksgiving be the drive-through night. So they are. That is on a Tuesday. I want to say the 7th or 14th. I can't remember which, but they're down here at the football field. Yes.
I heard they were at the football field.
Are they doing the parade?
The holiday parade will happen too.
That's December
2nd, isn't it?
It's a Thursday night.
second, I think.
I'd have to look it up.
I'm pretty sure it's the second.
Just be watching for it, I'll put it that way.
Favorite parade.
That's Christmas at Luther, isn't it, Kirk?
I think so.
Third, fourth, and fifth. So it's on the second, I believe. I think it's that week.
Okay. Ross?
We are just waiting to hear back on the housing feasibility study from the developers who are interested in the downtown infill. So anxiously looking for that so that it can also be tied into potentially into the RFPs that we have out there with the State of Iowa Economic Development. We're waiting on some feedback from the Sustainability Committee on power purchase agreements for solar. Really happy to hear about the fiber movement, that we're getting closer to answers. That's very encouraging. And just a reminder that town is super busy. Please try to be patient with your servers, your retail workers. We all want to have a good time. We all want to eat and shop and whatnot. But just because of COVID and changing labor situations, it might be we might have to wait a little bit longer, especially during the holiday season. So communications and kindness across the board. And thank you to everyone who voted for me for reappointment. I appreciate it, and I look forward to serving the community. Thanks.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out to the high school production of Tarzan. Sometimes we are political, sometimes we're polarized, sometimes we wonder why we're doing this, and all at once in the middle is an unbelievable amount of extremely talented kids with people who helped them put this on. But I just really wanted to give a shout out for that and how much I enjoyed it and how talented and lucky we are for the young people that we have in this town. Okay, with that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
So